Right, and just, yeah, we'll stop and start as we need to. Okay, it's up and running again. So you're talking about biostatistics, how many students you've got?
Yeah, so it's grown from around 50 students. Last semester we had 140, and this semester it's sitting at around 100. So it's pretty healthy enrolments. I'm the only lecturer on the course, and so I manage everything. Yes, fully online. And that's been a particular challenge with the course, because traditionally the students, they're postgraduate students, a lot of them are international, and they typically come from countries where, I guess, more traditional forms of education are quite common, so technology integration is not a really large component of what they're used to. So the online course it can be very intimidating for them. So over the last couple of years been trying to improve the course in a way where I give them a new learning experience, something that maybe is even better than face-to-face. And I've sort of hit the limits of what I can do in terms of content development, and now I'm really seriously thinking about how can I improve the way that I interact with students and what information can I gather about my students and feed back to them to enhance their learning. And because it's online, obviously a lot of behaviours and activities and data is collected there that I don't think I'm using very well or at all, mainly because maybe I don't have the time, or maybe because that data's hard to get out and use, or maybe I just don't know how to do something. And yeah, so this idea of learning analytics really was very interesting to me. And I had a look through some of Blackboard's features, so some of the examples that are online at the moment through RMIT. And so I think it was the retention centre, I think, which tracks students' engagement in the course, so their movement through assessment, access history as well, which I think is really useful. So, and you can set up alerts, so if a student hasn't logged in over a week, you know, to maybe send them a little email reminder to say, you know, you got some assessment coming up, make sure you're working towards that goal. But it also allows you to open up the conversation with the student, so maybe if something's going wrong with the student, they see that email and they feel obliged to explain why they haven't been engaging in the course. And that's a great way to start discussions around, like, do you need extra support, do you need special consideration, you know, where do we go from here? And usually the students are preoccupied with another course or a piece of assessment, and I'll send an email back saying, assuring me that I'm going to work on it this weekend.
You mentioned that you know, you'd send an email to students reminding them or touching base with them. If you've got 100 to 140 students,
how do you manage it? How do you?
Well, most students are progressing fine. So I think the last email, so I have an event set up in my calendar, so at the start of each week I have an alert that will check. So I'll go into the retention centre, I'll check the students who are at risk, and then I'll follow up with them. I'll look at it and see what is the main reason that they've actually been flagged. Usually it's just access, and I'll send an email just saying, you know, I've noticed you haven't logged into the course in quite some time. You know, please let me know if there's any issues. This assessment is due soon. It's important that you keep progressing in the course so that, you know, things don't get on top of you.
So that email, is it personalised? Hey Fred, hey Jack, hey Lisa, hey, or is it?
No, it's just a generic alert. So it explains to the student why I've sent the email to them.
And it comes from Blackboard?
Yes, but it's BCC'd.
Yeah, so no one sees.
Because it identifies, you know, maybe 24 students that are at risk, and my previous emails have been about 25% of the course that haven't been accessing Blackboard on a regular basis. So you BCC them, and then the students will get that alert, and you're hoping the students that are, you know, having some problems, they'll go, oh, well, I sort of maybe need to follow up and address this. So, and it's better. In the past, I haven't done anything. I've just waited for the student to contact me, and I obviously tell them at the start of the course that if you need help, to contact you. But a lot of students won't do that. A lot of students will traditionally leave things to the last minute.
Okay, so if you send out the email and saying, hey, do you need any help, what sort of response do you get back from the students then? It's like
it's either no response, so it's early in the semester at this stage, so a lot of, I expect probably half of those students at risk to unenroll by census date. So there's typically the students who have maybe over-enrolled in subjects and they're just trying out to see which one they will do. So a lot of them will disappear, and then the other students, they're the ones that I will get concerned about. But it's early in the semester, so a lot of these students are maybe have enrolled and preoccupied, maybe haven't sort of fully engaged in the semester to start with.
Yep.
But it's going to be interesting to see how things change as larger assessment approaches. I'm pretty interested to see how the system works.
And what do you expect when the big assignment comes? Do you think that then people who are going to drop off will disappear straight away?
I think what I'm going to see is that the retention centre will start flagging a lot less people because they'll be seen to have been, logging into the course to frantically do that assessment. But afterwards, it will, help highlight students who haven't performed, at a satisfactory level, and that again will allow me to approach those students and notify them that I'm a little bit concerned, and that they need to follow up with me, if they need extra assistance, and to not let it get to the last test in the semester, and you're facing a failure. Now is the time to act. And in the past, I haven't really done that, and you always have a handful of students at the end of each semester emailing you or coming to see you panicking because they realise that their performance hasn't been up to scratch. So I think this weekly email alerts will draw students' attention to the fact that we are noticing things aren't going as we would like. So now is the time to act. And just a little, sense of being monitored, I think will maybe get these students, get into the back of their minds that, maybe I should be picking up my game a little bit.
And that's one question, and I was looking for a document there, but my iPad's having problems connecting to the wireless. Do the students know yet or realise yet that you're tracking them? And when they get this email from you going, hey, I see you haven't, or do you have any concerns, can I help you with? Have any of them come back to you and said, hey, you can see when I've logged in, or did you know I've logged in?
No, not yet. Out of the 24 students that I might have emailed, you'll typically only get responses from 4 or 5, with explanations about, I enrolled in the course late, and I've been, really pressured by the other subjects at the moment, but this weekend I'm going to catch up. So there's been no concerns that I'm monitoring. I think it's assumed because it's an online course. The students do have an understanding that that information, that data, is being gathered. Also in my projects, so I have a large project that's worth 40%, and they have to conduct their own online virtual experimental scientific study. They do that, they plan the study in groups and do the data collection in groups, and then there's individual write-up. But when they're collecting the data, the system that we use, it's an online virtual environment, and I notify the students that from that environment I can see everything that you've clicked on. Okay, so, and that's just for an authenticity perspective, so I will know if the students have made up data, basically, because I can check their logs. Their logs don't match the data that they gathered, I instantly know that it's not authentic. And I do warn them of that, and that's purely from an assessment and plagiarism academic conduct perspective, that we are monitoring you.
Yeah, do you know how they feel about that? Or you just don't get any comments, it's just like you say they expect it, and this is just...
No, I mean, if it was a face-to-face course in an exam, you've got people monitoring you with the eyes, whereas this is an online course. So the way I monitor you is your behaviour online.
Do you think they understand the extent to which you can kind of monitor them in terms of,
Well, it's there. It's written for the project. There's a specific statement that says that we can see everything that you do in this online environment. So they're warned of it. How many students read that? I'm not entirely sure. And I think to date I've only had one student that's tried to fabricate data. And I've also had a couple of students that have actually written up their report explaining the experiment this way, but then when you actually have a look at their logs, you can see that that's not how they conducted the experiment. Say, for example, you have a cup of coffee and they want to know, does that coffee improve their maths test performance, in a randomised experiment. So consuming coffee, you have to wait a certain amount of time for that coffee to be absorbed and exert, or caffeine to exert an impact on your central nervous system.
What time frame is that?
I think the literature says around half an hour,
Really?
40 minutes. So in the proposal, I get the students to actually state that. So with this, with the logs of the students' behaviour, I can actually see when they clicked to give the coffee to the virtual participant and when they clicked to do the maths test. And this student that I had, this student that I had was only waiting a minute, or not even a minute. He was basically waiting for them to drink the coffee, which takes about a minute of time, and then bang, straight to the maths test for all of their subjects. And I called, that information was there. I could see that he had there was a mismatch between what he said that he'd done in the experiment and what was actually done on the island, and he tried to hide that fact. If he had said that he waited a minute, okay, I probably would have been less harsh in terms of the feedback that I gave him, because I was quite assertive with the students, saying you haven't conducted the experiment correctly, okay, and you can't reward that.
It's good to have that feedback though, isn't it? Then you can see straight away exactly what's kind of happening and see where the problem lies, because you can monitor it so easily.
Exactly right. And we, particularly with online learning, we do have a lot of concerns around I guess authenticity, and it's systems like this that we can actually monitor student behaviour. And if something as complex as a project, it's very unlikely that they're going to get other people to do it for them, because who would do that? Because it is such a complex and involved process. So and having that monitoring there is incredibly handy.
And your students in this course, are they based in Australia?
Yes, they're typically onshore students, international onshore.
Okay.
But I do usually have a couple of students who are travelling overseas while the course is on. Not a lot. Okay. And it's something that, I hope we can, as the universities changes, hopefully the new Vice Chancellor, there is going to be a push for more flexibility in the programs, so that students will be able to go offshore and maybe do a course overseas, but then still be enrolled and finishing their courses online at RMIT.
Yeah, it makes sense.
It's something that the universities are, and also all of the Australian universities are trying to increase global mobility. But a lot of the reason I think that students don't take up those offers is because it does impact their onshore course delivery. So the online delivery is a really great way to get around that. But we still need to ensure that we're maintaining, I guess, the academic integrity.
And the quality, I guess, as well, and the transference of one course back to the home campus, you know what I mean, or the home university. That I can go University of Phoenix, I can go Walden, I can go Open University UK, and it still meets that criteria of RMITs. But can't you do that already?
You can do that, but in our school, in mathematics, one of the problems is that a lot of the other universities that we have agreements with don't actually offer advanced level mathematics courses. So it's very hard for them to travel overseas and get a course that contribute to their program.
Well, why can't they do a course? This is me just thinking out loud. Why can't they do a course online from another university and transfer it across? Like if I want to do an online course from Brown or Harvard,
which they can. But the idea is that we want to send students offshore. So that
physically
offshore, so that they can actually develop networks in other countries, which will obviously be great for our country in terms of employment and sending Australians out into the world. So that's what the government wants to do. But so the online delivery, I guess, will enable those students to be more globally mobile while still contributing towards their grades in their onshore components. So so that's what I want to do in this course, and it is set up in a way where it can be studied anywhere now, assuming you have an internet connection,
Yeah.
a reliable internet connection.
Beautiful.
So all the software, we originally had software issues. There used to be a textbook with the course, and the textbook, if you're in the UK, you can only get the UK version, and all the exercise numbers, page numbers are all out of whack. So you're trying to communicate with these students about, look at this page, this section, do this exercise activity, and they're saying,
Okay.
I need to check which one's which because we've got different numbers, and it was creating all these nightmares.
Right.
So I got rid of the textbook.
What are you using now instead?
My own online notes through
Okay.
Google Sites. So I developed a Google site for the course,
Okay.
and that's been great. My what was it? The overall satisfaction of the course jumped 20% in the semester. I got rid of the textbook. Yeah.
Oh, when you go, okay. So
dramatic improvement.
you got rid of the textbook and then you changed, or you got rid of the textbook, changed all at the same time?
Yeah. So
So was it textbook that
Textbook,
jumped, or was
semester.
it the Google site that made it jump?
yeah. So I had to have the Google site done to get rid of the textbook.
Okay.
So last
Okay.
semester the textbook, and then
Yeah.
I spent my summer writing the Google site,
Mm.
and then implemented it the next semester.
Yeah.
And yeah,
And so is it just kind of your basic notes of what's going, like lesson by lesson, or is it?
comprehensive
Yeah.
notes, videos, multimedia, integrated applets.
Okay.
It's kind of like your own program in itself.
It's everything.
Yeah.
It's basically a lecture delivered.
Yeah.
Not as a video recording. I don't
Yeah.
believe that we should be using online videos to deliver lectures. I mean,
Yeah.
it's still just a lecture.
Yeah.
So they're all short videos,
Yeah.
mainly demonstrations of computations. So if a student needs to calculate a mean in SPSS, there's a video showing, right, how do I do that in SPSS?
Okay.
So and that was very important to me, that the notes were integrated with the technology used as well, because there's no point separating that in statistics anymore.
Are you, if you're using your Google site, are you tracking or using any of the analytics?
Yes,
In
so
Google?
this is very interesting. So with RMIT, we don't appear to have access to their analytics service.
Yep.
But surprisingly, and I think it's actually working. I had a look at the data last night.
Yeah.
You can actually track an RMIT Google site using a personal Gmail address. So you've just got to use the tracking codes.
Okay.
And it seems to be tracking. It's tracking something.
Yeah. Is it you, or is it your students it's tracking?
It have to be my students.
Okay.
Well, it would also be tracking me as well, because if I access the Google site, then it views that as a session.
Okay.
Okay, but obviously my inclusion in there wouldn't be that great.
Yeah.
So the reason that I'm tracking at this stage is I want to understand when my students are actually studying the course content.
Oh, yeah.
Because this is an online postgraduate biostatistics course. So postgraduate students are really interesting people. They're typically got a job, so their hours are really unusual, and they're usually up to all hours of the morning studying for the course. So they're very highly motivated students, generally very resilient, and yeah. So my view is that a traditional brick and mortar university doesn't cater these students very well to their study habits, and I think online learning offers the best way to overcome that.
I agree.
Flexible way of
I don't know how else.
education.
I work full time. I have 2 small children. There's no way I can commit myself to 5 to 9 sessions on a Tuesday and Thursday night.
And these students can't as well.
No.
Although when they come into the course, they still do have this expectation that there's going to be online lectures or something that they have to log into and watch.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty quick to dispel that, and to sort of say that anything that we do in this course will be available to you at any time. So even if we do have some sort of face-to-face session, we had our first recorded Google Hangout session the other day.
Oh, yeah.
I think I had about 15 students logged in online, and about another 6 students here in this office area. I had the computer on wheels set up out there, and they're all so they can see my screen projecting in here.
Yeah.
So I had my webcam and microphone set up,
Yeah.
and then I had the screen capture technology recording session. And actually, like the audio and everything came out brilliantly. I was so happy with it.
Excellent.
And that went for about an hour long, and then I uploaded that video onto Google Drive, and then shared the link through the Google community site.
Yeah.
And so all the students who weren't there can then later go back and because I demonstrate a lot of things for the first set of exercises and how to do that in SPSS.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's flexible, and now that's viewable.
Yeah.
Nobody's missed out.
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't have the opportunity to sit in there and ask questions, but I guess you're relying on your peers to ask the right questions during that time.
But they can always get back to you via email and say,
and
look,
with each other as well. To have that, to kind of share the information. And
yeah, so the Google site's there, so if they have any follow-up questions, they can just make another post. So the Google apps that we have is just incredible, but I don't think we're utilising them very well. Why can't we track our Google sites within the university through Google Analytics?
So what information are you capturing, and kind of what are you doing with, how are you making it meaningful?
At this stage, it's very, very simple. I just want to use the information to understand when my students are accessing the site.
And when are they accessing it?
Their study habits. Surprisingly, there's a large group of students who are accessing it 9 to 5, but there's an equally large number of students who are accessing it all the way up to about midnight. And some students 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, and then it will drop off, so they are getting some sleep, which is great. And then it'll sort of spike up very early in the morning as well. So it's a bit of a kicker.
Insight into study habits and what people,
Originally, I had this survey that the students filled out, and it was like a really tedious survey to fill out, and also to analyse and present back to the students. Whereas this analytics, it shows. It's just tracking who's logging into the site.
It makes it easy for everyone, and it's accurate. It's going to be accurate.
The data's quite complex because it all comes down to how do you define a session, and I do have some anomalies in the data. So one day I had 288 sessions. Just in this Friday night at 6 o'clock in the morning. I can't explain it.
Okay.
The regular sessions per hour is generally maybe 15, 20 max. So I just have this anomaly 280 6 o'clock Friday morning.
Okay.
So the data's not. I don't know how clean it is. I think it's clean enough to draw some the conclusions that I need to draw.
So when it's not clean enough, and you say it is enough to draw your conclusions, do you have reservations about using the data and what you're getting out of possibly Blackboard?
No, because it's information I've never had access to before, or easy access to before.
And it's easy,
I understand. It's very easy to get. You basically just put in a query into the analytics service, specify the date window that you're looking at, and then it'll present it in the actual analytics. So you don't even have to take the data out. But I want to take the data out and show the students, this is what you guys are doing.
So you do show the students. So what do they think of that?
Yeah, of course. I haven't. Well, I looked at it last night.
Okay.
But I didn't actually finish the plot, so I'm just going to show them some box plots so it relates back to the content that they're learning in Module 1.
How are you going to show them? You're just going to do a Google Hangout session, or are you going to...
No, it'll be an online graph that they can go in and click on and integrate. So I use a service called Plotly. It's an online data analysis and visualization tool. Integrates with Google Drive, and basically you can create a plot, publish it online, and the students you can share that with the world. Students can go in and click, and they go through the plot, and when they mouse over the boxes, all the statistics appear. It's really cool.
It's great, isn't it? Then they have that sense of self-awareness as well, because then the information's about them, so they become more aware of their own behaviour.
Because I feel I need to educate the students about my role as well. What is it like to coordinate an online course? What challenges am I facing as a lecturer? Because a lot of the students aren't aware of what we do. I think for an online course, they probably just think it's online and the lecturer is there if you hassle them long enough to go and arrange an appointment. But they don't realise that we are doing a lot behind the scenes. And this semester particularly, I am tracking a lot of their behaviour so that I can understand and think about strategies to improve my delivery of the course. So I'll feed that back to them, and they can have a look and compare and see, because they'll know when they're studying, and they can see, there's all these students, look at all these students logging in after dinner. or maybe look at it and go, oh, I'm not that unusual. There's another 20 students who are logging in at the same time as me.
What about your workload? Has it increased since you've started turning on, switching on all the learning analytics, since you've started playing with it all, setting it up?
Well, I only do what I'm capable of doing. I mean, there's a
As in time frame or skill set?
Both.
Okay.
Obviously, these are new techniques, methods that I'm learning, so there is that, I guess, self-teaching, and you have to do a lot of research. I mean, Google does make a lot of this stuff very easy. I'd hate to be trying to program this from scratch. That would just be impossible, and I'd probably never do it. But these services are there, and you just have to spend a little bit of time experimenting. That's what I do. I just experiment. Just give it a go. If it doesn't work, who cares? I mean, you'll eventually get it right. And the students are forgiving as well, so if you mess up a graph or something like that, and I have had that where the graphs have stopped feeding me the links, and the links become corrupt, and I mean, it doesn't matter. It's a learning experience. So you only do what you can manage, but I guess, if it's aligned to improving the delivery of your course, and it's just a part of your job. And I guess, if you see the advantage of using these methods, and how that can help improve your teaching and the learning of the students, then it doesn't come into question about whether that's increasing your workload. It's just doing your job in a different way, and maybe a better way, and a more effective way. So
that's helpful. And who taught you to so when you're first playing around with everything and you kind of looking up about learning analytics and things, how did you get, what was the most useful information to kind of help guide you to turn this on or that on? Was there anything in particular?
So I started with the Blackboard stuff that was provided by RMIT, so I thought that's a great place to start. It's already sitting there, it's already well developed. So I started using that, but then I started to get other ideas, particularly I use like the Google apps a lot. And they've got these fantastic things called forms. They've got plots which can dynamically update based on new data arriving. I use Google Sites. So it just got me thinking, well, all the data's there. It's just about me making the decision to actually collect it, and then going to the effort to use that information and feed it back to students. So, I guess it was... so you just start with something small, okay, but then it quickly, you almost get a little bit addicted to it, and going, what other data can I get? Or you see something, I really want to do this. I really wanted to understand when students are accessing the course notes. Okay, so I could survey them, alright, but surveys, 50% response rate, it's tedious to fill out, and it's only as good as the day that it's filled out. So a week, 2 weeks later, it's already out of date. So how could I do that? And then I looked at Google Analytics and go, oh, this is actually tracks like, the IPs pinging the site, accessing the site content. So it's great. I don't have to survey the students. I can monitor them. Well, I can't monitor them individually because I can't identify the student, but because the site is behind RMIT's network, the only people getting access to it are people who are authenticated with RMIT. So I know those are at least RMIT students. Maybe there's some staff in there as well, because the staff can actually get access to the Google site. But I assume that it would mostly be students, and that's it's live. It's constantly being updated, so I don't have to worry about reapplying the survey. Don't have to worry about it getting out of date. And eventually, at the end of the semester, I want to actually take the entire timeline of access and then put in the graph, when assessment was due, and sort of see if you do sort of see spikes, before that assessment and when the students are accessing certain material. So there's a lot that can be done with that data that I'll sort of think about at a later date.
There's a tool that's being tested right now that you may be interested with, and I'll talk about it later with you as well. It's called Blue Pulse. Have you used it?
No.
Seen it? Okay, it's an online automatic instant feedback tool. For example, if you said you've got a Blackboard course and you said to your students, how was today's lecture on statistics, they will click and you will get the instant feedback. Yes, I enjoyed it. Or you can say, you can leave it open and they can just respond to how the day went or how the session went or the video went. So instead of waiting like towards the end of the week or after the CES data has come in and then make changes, you can make changes on the fly. Because if the session on Monday, students had lots of questions about section A, then on Wednesday when the class is again, you can say, well, look, I see on Monday you all had lots of questions about Section A. Let's just take a look again at Section A.
Yeah, I'm doing something similar. I'll give you a quick look.
And it's being trialled right now. It's being trialled with Andrea Chester. Do you know Mark Lee? He's psychology as well.
No, I don't know.
I can send you the information on it, and I'll give you the link for the website as well. It may be something you might be interested in taking a look at.
Yeah, it sounds, yeah, definitely. I'll just show you what I'm doing. So I have talked to you previously about the self-efficacy. So because my course, the students are progressing through it at different stages, so not everyone's in sync. So it is, yeah, very asynchronous. And so the course is broken up into modules. So I want to know at the end of each module how a student's feeling about what was covered in that module. It's similar to, you know, getting instant feedback about a lecture or something that you just delivered. So I use Google Forms to collect that information. So for each module, I have a self-efficacy form set up. Okay, so if we go to module 1's pretty straightforward. I'm not expecting a lot of students to have trouble with descriptive statistics and plots, but you know, you got to start simple.
Exactly.
So the form is embedded at the end of each of the modules. It's not even up here. It's here. So this is the course, the Google site. So let's load the networks. No. There it is. So if we go into module 1, okay. So this is the module. Okay, so there's a survey of attitudes towards statistics at the start of the semester. That's another form that I set up and feedback to the students, and that's just their attitudes towards different aspects.
And then you can see at the end if it's improved. Hopefully they're
yeah, pre and post, and I feed back the profile of the class to them in the second module, so they can see how the class is sitting in terms of their mean responses to the different domains. Can I take a photo with this? I can give you access to the course.
Wow.
You can go and do
that'd be great.
screenshots.
Okay,
because this
thank
is
you.
that's incredible, isn't it? So you've got
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on with this.
and this is all the things you created yourself essentially on.
Yeah, this is Google
Sites.
Sites. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Any idiot like me can write a course in under a day, like a whole web page in under a day, make it look brilliant. There seems to be some issues with Google at the moment. Okay, so this is actually a Google spreadsheet embedded into the course, and this is showing students different statistics and then ways to actually get the data. It's really laggy.
And even though it's slow, which you know can happen,
It's not ever this slow.
Oh, no,
there's something
yeah.
wrong with the network.
you haven't had students saying, "Oh, I can't get it loaded" or "I can't access it."
All the
It's all
time.
worked beautifully.
All the time.
Okay.
That's one of the major issues that we have, and that's usually due to students using very outdated laptops and computers.
Oh, they do have
viruses.
issues all the
Oh,
time.
Yeah,
Oh,
all the time.
okay.
I mean, Google's the best that you'll get. It'll run pretty much on anything, and the issues usually boil down to students' personal computers not being up to date,
Okay.
viruses, out of date internet browsers,
Okay.
all sorts of technical issues. So.
But that can transfer across to Blackboard as well.
Yep, yeah, the
Okay.
students typically have
Yeah.
major IT issues. It's not
Yeah.
specific to my course.
Yeah.
So, it happens. It's just the nature of online learning.
Yeah.
So at the end of this module here, we have the self-efficacy survey, and the students answer how confident they feel in learning the different topics covered in that module. So they can rate that on a scale. And that information is fed directly back into the responses, which can be viewed here.
And how often do you collect this?
Every module. At the end of every module, the student's asked to rate the self-efficacy.
And how often are the modules run? Is it 12?
Roughly weekly.
Weekly.
Yeah, there's 11 modules for the 12-week course.
So you'll open it up on, say, a Monday?
It's all open.
So
students can progress as quickly as they want.
Okay, so...
They have a course schedule. The course schedule's up there. This is the expected minimum.
Okay.
All right, and also it's linked up against the assessment.
Okay, so with your actual course, do they have to... it's not in a lockstep type environment. And what about your Google Hangouts? You know, must they attend your Google Hangouts? I'm just trying to see. So if that, I'm getting all over the place here. If they do week 1, can they jump down to week 10, go back to week 2, or if they need to? It is
linear.
Okay.
But the idea is that the students who want to can progress quicker than the schedule if they're that way inclined.
Okay.
So some students do. It's only typically a handful, and they're usually students who might have done statistics back in undergrad and were quite good at it, and they want to get to the harder stuff a little bit quicker.
Yeah.
So they're supported to do that. So it is possible that I can get into week 3 and I'm getting students in module 6, week 6, asking questions. But that's fine. I can, that's what I'm here to do, here to help you. But the students typically will be a little bit behind the schedule just because that's the schedule. If I advanced it 2 weeks, that'd always be a little bit behind that as well. It's just the way they do things.
Yeah. Now you can easily tell which parts, more difficult, say if there's things
that's the exact idea. I want to know where other students, and typically students who are very reluctant to explain to me where they're having difficulties, and also students are really poor at actually explaining where their difficulties are. You get a question like, I don't understand this question. And then you have to ask questions saying, why do you think you don't understand this question? And it's really hard for them to elicit, all right, what don't I understand? Where is my knowledge gap? So this hopefully allows them to reflect upon, all right, exactly what am I not understanding? Or what do I think I'm going to have trouble learning at this stage after going, reading through the notes and going through the examples. So they complete this before they actually do the exercises. So based on the course schedule, I can go at the end of module 1, just before the assessment, I can go into it, I can check, all right, were there any major problems with any of the concepts, and then I can make a decision, all right, maybe I go online and do a quick hangout demonstration, go through a worked example and show them, what they're expected to be able to do. But the forms, where is this here?
And you check those once a week, or do you go in during the week and have a look?
Yeah, just whenever I need to.
Yeah.
What am I doing? I need to view summary.
And how do you think other staff would they find this kind of stuff easy to do and implement if it's already kind of implemented and things? Do you think they'd find it easy to do? Is it kind of?
I could show someone in 5 minutes how to do this.
Okay, but your level of expertise.
No, this is easy. This is really easy.
I know, but still, your level of expertise is here. If you had someone who is not familiar with online learning, hadn't really gone into Blackboard before, hadn't set up a Google site before, is not technically savvy.
Yeah, so I assume you're reasonably familiar with Google Apps.
Yep.
If you're reasonably familiar with Google Apps, I could show you how to do this in 5 minutes. You get a basic form embedded into almost anything in a very short amount of time. Okay, so Google is still having some problems here. Oh, here we go. Alright, so this is what the students have access to this. They can view this immediately after filling out their responses.
Yeah. Can you track the students going in, and do you know if the students actually go in and look at it?
It's anonymous at this stage because I don't want the students feeling that I'm tracking their specific responses. I could quite easily make this identifiable. I just put in a requirement that whenever the data's entered, it tracks their student number. Okay,
but can you tell how many people or how many students have gone in, not knowing who has gone in? Can you see, I mean, having done this and set this up, have you had enough students go in and take a look at it to make this worthwhile for students?
I can't tell if a student has actually looked at it in terms of the summary responses. But I know how many students have done it. So 59, I've got about 100 students. That's a really good response rate.
Exactly.
I'm really happy with that.
Yeah.
So the students are obviously seeing it in the notes and they're filling it out, which is great.
Yeah.
And then they can see straight away how well they know the material and everything, if they need to go back and go over things and stuff as well.
Yeah, so they can
That's so straightforward.
compare their results to how the rest of the class. So and think if you're a student and you get to this, you know, I know in the second module they cover Bayes' theorem, which is, you know, it's not a trivial formula to learn, really handy. And you can sort of see, so if a student's really not confident of that, just going in and saying, oh, I'm not the only one, you know, it can be quite reassuring, and then they can go, oh, well, maybe we can go to James and ask him to give us some, you know, some more guidance on the topic. But you can see here all these distributions are quite skewed towards high confidence, which is, we're expecting to see that because these are really introductory. You know, the first module is very gentle.
Right.
Okay, so I think the worst item here is the stem and leaf plot, surprisingly, because we don't use stem and leaf plots in scientific communication anymore. It's a really introductory topic, and it's just to get students familiar with linking data to graphical displays. So yeah, so I've actually had a lot of questions about that in my Google community site, and I've also promised the students that we'll sort of follow up with some extra notes before the first test as well, so they can get a little bit more practice with working out those problems.
So if you've got Blackboard and you've got Google, you've got all your documentation, resources and everything in Google. What are you doing in Blackboard?
Assessment.
Purely assessment, and that's it?
Yeah, because it's obviously has, you know, it's backed up, it's secure, it's what the university endorses. So basically Blackboard's sitting as the gateway to the course content, okay, and also managing the assessment. All of the assessment projects, exercises and tests are all delivered through Blackboard.
So if you're just using Blackboard for the assessment items, you're tracking in Google the time that they log on, the day when they last.
So that
and you're using all of Google for the analytics and not so much Blackboard, right?
But I'll use Blackboard analytics to track when students are actually accessing assessment.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's not ideal, but there's certain things Google can't do and probably won't ever do.
But it works for you, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know any other staff who use similar things like this, or not really?
No, I don't want to meet them.
Yeah.
That's the thing, if you could.
So what happened in my school, I was someone who really pushed the online course development side of things, and then our school made a commitment to flexible delivery, so increasing the number of courses that can offer flexible delivery, and that they used what I'd done in biostatistics as an exemplar of how the school needs to move to an online presence. So that's what I mean. It's sort of, it's hard being the first person to do things. I invested a lot of time into improving this course, and then afterwards, after school made the commitment, they got actual people to come in and help other lecturers do it. So
who were those people who came in?
They were just basically research research officers, just people who could do the heavy lifting. So here's the notes, all right, now get them into Google Sites, lay them out, and then get them back for the lecturer to check.
Okay.
So that they didn't have, because the lecturers were really concerned about the amount of time. And it does take a great amount of time to transition your course to an online for the first time. But I see it as an investment, because once it's on there, it's just a matter of tweaking and improving and adjusting things each semester. But it's always there. It's always sitting there, ready to go. Whether you go overseas to deliver the course, whether the student goes overseas to deliver the course, whether you deliver it fully online at RMIT, or whether you deliver it in terms of blended learning.
I think that there are individuals like yourself who may be doing stuff.
I know there's people doing stuff out there.
Haven't uncovered it. Now that
we're just not talking.
That Learning Analytics Special Interest Group, I did sessions with Warren out of SEH.
Yep.
And we started gathering names. I have 70 names so far on this list that are all interested in this stuff. And so I'm just trying to think here.
Interest or apply.
That's what I don't know.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, if we bring you out into the open, and all these 70 people start hearing about you and finding what you're doing, they're going to come to you and go, well, look, I've been doing this.
Yeah.
And it may not be to the extent that you've been doing
or
it.
it might be way better and they didn't realise
Exactly.
that
And
what they're
or
doing
they'll
is
finally
actually...
go, thank goodness I've made a connection with someone I didn't know who was doing all of this. So I'm thinking, I need to get you in the city and run a session, if you haven't done one already, and getting all these special interest group people into these sessions so they can start talking with you and exploring what you're doing. Would you be interested in doing something like that?
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's eventually what I want to do. I want to go in and, I guess, I'm happy to showcase what I'm doing, but I really want to see what other people are doing, because, you know, it's going to get to a point where I'll get to the limit of my creativity, and you need that engagement and that collegiational, I guess, to continue to push your skills and knowledge.
And that's what I'm thinking, we need to get you exposed and out there.
And also having things like how you said it's quite easy to put together, but having, you know, basic how to do things for other staff.
As I said, like I could show someone how to develop a form and put it online for their students to fill out in under 5 minutes.
Because I'm sure a lot of staff at the moment would probably, perhaps if you said, oh, you know, you can use Google and do all these things, they'd probably have no idea about what to do and probably find it overwhelming.
Exactly.
Do you think staff would be motivated though to use these kind of tools as a whole? Or?
Not. See, one of the things here. I mean, I sort of maybe, you know, I'm a little bit on the borderline here. But we should always keep in mind that what we're doing needs to serve some sort of teaching and learning purpose. Okay, so technology is there to exploit. We should avoid using technology for the sake of using technology, even though sometimes I do because I just love it. And I think that sometimes, you know, playing around with technology can actually be an investment and will lead to things that you might not anticipate. But generally, if you can tell a lecturer, you know, what if we could track every minute, hour of the day when students are logging in and accessing your course live, instant feed.
And what do you think the response would be to that?
If they need that information, they're going to go, how can I do it? Okay, but the thing is, they've got to need it. It's got to solve some sort of problem. Give them some sort of insight that they might not even need. They know, but didn't realise that it's now a possibility.
To make it a motivation for that.
You know,
we're talking about a focus group. Peter came up with the idea of, you know, as part of the LTIF, because they're still figuring out, you know, what our focus questions are going to be, is that if we got a focus group together and we asked them, what do you need from learning analytics? And they may not know what they don't know. You know what I mean? Do you need to know when they logged in? Do you need to know what resources they're using? Do you need to know when they've attended? Or do you need to know if they haven't logged in at all, what do you do then? That sort of stuff. We're talking about bringing together a group of people to try and exactly figure out what's that need that you're talking about, what's in it for me, that WIFM, for them to actually go ahead and use that. Because
if you could like develop just like a massive list of, you know, things or I guess teaching and learning applications. So for example, in my case, you know, very simple examples, but you know, when are your students accessing course material?
Would that be something academics would want to know?
Yes. Well, particularly in online learning, that's something that I definitely want to know, because I need to understand how to best support my students. So now, because I know a lot of students are accessing it at those hours, then I am sort of considering, well, how can I support those students who are studying, you know, at those unusual times? And that might just be a simple case of ensuring that maybe a couple of times a week I do go on, you know, after dinner to make sure that I'm, you know, answering their questions, so that they don't have to wait until the following day to get a response. And that can be factored into my workload. I can discuss that with my manager and say, listen, you know, I have online postgraduate students, so I might not be coming early in the morning. Okay? And your managers go, it's fine. As long as you keep the students happy, you can work whenever you want.
So you're comfortable setting up those parameters which allow you to possibly check in on a Sunday morning or check in on a Saturday evening. You know what I mean?
Well, the reality of an academic job is that we all work weekends. And anyone who probably isn't going to get promoted anytime soon. It is a very demanding job, and particularly when you're teaching, you know, because that teaching is taking up a whole chunk of your time during the week, is that you do find that your research and publications thing do get sort of pushed to the weekend, which is really sad. But it's usually only during teaching periods. But you know, you do need to think of, well, in my case with the online learning, and knowing that the students are going to need support of a night time, maybe more so than they do during the day, then I can discuss that with my manager and come, you know, we can come to agreement that, you know, maybe I don't need to come in early in the morning.
Do you like, this is not quite analytics, but do you let your students know that, look, I'm available between 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, not available Saturday, Sunday, you'll hear a response in 24 hours?
One policy in my course, as you said, that you will be pretty much guaranteed a response in no more than 24 hours.
Okay.
Usually instantly. So and that's why I've moved to the Google community, so that's like a Google Plus service, because those posts come directly and sit in my inbox. Or folder, so that, and I can actually reply through my email and then post that back to the discussion board. So I don't have to go into Blackboard. Because Blackboard, I know some people say you can set up alerts through the email system. I haven't figured out how to do that at RMIT. If it's there, it's hidden really well. But I used to have to log in maybe 3 or 4 times a day to the Blackboard, only to discover that nobody's posted on the discussion forum. That's a couple of minutes in my day when I could have been answering a few emails. So that you add that up over a semester, that's a lot of wasted time of clicking and entering your credentials, only to discover that your attention wasn't needed. So I've got all my students now. I require them to be on Google, on the Google Community Service, so they have to opt in to that at RMIT. It's not a default service that the RMIT apps covers for students. There are some privacy issues around that. I have, last semester when I was trialling the service, I did have students express some concerns about I'm not really happy with social media, but I sort of reassure them that it only knows what you feed into it. So if you use it only to engage in this Google community, and the Google community at RMIT is hidden, so it's hidden behind RMIT's network, so no one from the public can actually see what happens in the community website. So I said, as long as you don't fill out any personal information about yourself other than your student, other than your name and your student number, which isn't particularly sensitive information, then that service won't actually know anything about you. But if you start feeding it, then it can actually learn more about you. So no one this semester has raised any issues about using the Google Plus services, because I do reassure them about that fact that I also I'm not a big fan of social media as well, like, Facebook and Twitter and things like that. I try to avoid it as much as I can.
In class, or is that personally?
Basically with everything. So I'm not really. Mainly personally, for professional, you can get away with it because your professional life is, particularly at university, is really sort of public. And if it's not public, you're probably not going to be a very good academic. You have to promote yourself when you research as much as possible. So professionally, it's okay, but personally, it's not something that I believe in. So I reassure the students that I'm the same. But this service, we're just purely using it for academic reasons, and it has the advantages outweigh the risks.
Do you see any other limitations or problems that could potentially occur for students and for staff using these kinds of tools? Or?
I guess the jumping between Blackboard and the Google apps does create some complexities. I'm worried that I'm moving more and more away from Blackboard each semester. I think, and the only reason that I still am in Blackboard is because it does manage assessment well enough, and obviously Google can't do that. But if Google all of a sudden offered some sort of learning management system and our university gave us access to it, I would use that straight away because I know it would integrate with everything else that I'm doing.
You're not on your own moving away from Blackboard and heading towards Google. I can tell you that much.
But the main reason that I moved from Blackboard was the discussion board. It's archaic.
It's quite clunky and
it's terrible. And I'm on that thing, in this online course. That was my main way to communicate with these students, like thousands and thousands of posts each semester. And you know, it was such a burden. I used to complain to my students about it, just telling them, like, we've got to find something better than this. And they agreed with me. They said, yeah, the discussion boards, I don't like logging in to you know, check the communication. So a lot of these students are already on social media, so they're quite comfortable and happy to go straight into Google. And a lot of students have actually said, oh, I'm really happy that you're on like Google Communities.
Because I used Blackboard for my PhD actually so it was an online intervention. We used that as a basis for people who were working through modules for online therapy. And same thing, the discussion board is just so limited. You just can't do anything with it. It's just when they're not flexible.
It doesn't invite discussion.
No.
And the reason, like Google Communities, it's not set up for a discussion forum format as well. So I have had to make some compromises there. But Google has Google Groups, which is like fantastic forum technology, but we don't have access to that at a course level. And there must be some reason that I haven't been made aware of. But each time this IT survey comes out, give us access to Google Groups at the course level, because that would be another thing that would, I think, embed better than the Google community side. But there are some advantages to the community, which I can show you here. So I've done this plotting competition this semester. These are the Plotly plots, and as you can see here, all of them are visible.
Which is great. And I'm not here to, you know, to rip off Blackboard, but you can see that right there. You know, so it's clean. Front and centre, and
yeah. Whereas to do this in Blackboard, I'd have to get all the students to submit their links to their plots and then list the links in a page.
Yeah.
Whereas this, like, and all the students can see each other, all the other students' submissions.
Right there.
So, and the idea of this is that once all the students have finished submitting their plots, these are their submissions here, that the students will then go and vote for the best one.
Nice.
And the student who gets the most Google pluses on their plot, and the one that I agree with.
Yeah, a badge. Are we talking a badge here?
Well, the prize hasn't been discussed. But what I'm going to try is I'm going to try and get their graph actually put on the front page of Plotly, because I know the Plotly people.
Oh,
and
nice.
As a prize, and say your plot is going to be visible to the world
Brilliant.
for a brief period of time. So
oh,
I think
very nice. That is.
And there's
nice
some great ones in here already.
Incentive.
But if we click on an interesting one, I don't think I clicked on that. Oh, this is Plotly. It's online, and you can see that it's interactive.
Oh wow!
So students, they have to find an interesting data set from the internet and then convert that to an online plot.
Yeah.
So this student here, they haven't cited their data source. Okay, so they'll get. So there's like assessment instructions, and one of the requirements this student here should have probably put somewhere in the x-axis the actual just link to where they got this data, so that I can just go and check it quickly.
It's just got me looking at I see it's suicides in Australia. I'm now looking at the colours, you know what I mean, and the age group.
And if we want to look at the
it's just, and it's actually making me get off track from what we're talking about and looking at, you know what I mean? So
engaged.
It's I'm thinking, wow. You know?
So this is actually it's a very well displayed plot.
It is. It's very nicely done.
There's
Very
a few
clear.
issues. They should have brought this back down to 0 on the y-axis, but it's very.
It's very readable, you know, for a layman just to look at it and get an understanding.
So
all this data that you're getting from all the different students in terms of, so not this, but in terms of, you know, what they're doing and all that kind of stuff, because I just wonder what you can do with that. Obviously you get instant feedback for courses and stuff, but in terms of showing the usefulness of programs and stuff, about what I could do with it in terms of, say for our project, but just in general as well, like to show how useful it is, if that makes sense, to tracking students and things. I don't know if you have any suggestions about all this.
So usefulness from the academics' perspective.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it just comes down to, you know, how engaged in teaching and learning they are. I mean, the people who are very passionate about their courses will instantly see the benefit in little activities like this. and they might have something that they've always wanted to do but not entirely sure about how that data could be collected. But there's just, I guess, a lot of other people who just won't sort of be interested. But if you get those people who are really engaged in teaching and learning and give them some ideas, I think that will be a huge well, that's the goal.
That's
I think
that focus group again, trying to delve down into, drill down what exactly.
But also like focus groups on dealing with a particular problem.
Like retention.
Yeah. Retention. Okay, so how can we improve course retention?
Do you think academics are interested in that?
Retention? The day-to-day coalface.
Yeah. What if we can pull all of that stuff?
Retention is probably an issue that program managers and maybe the deputy heads of teaching and learning are going to be concerned about. See, I look at retention in terms of, well, a lot of your students that enrol are going to unenroll before the census date. Okay, so we can't count them. It's just, that's natural. It's usually not anything to do with your course. Sometimes it might be, they might get put off it. It didn't meet their expectations, so they don't enrol. But retention to me is, I just want, any student who is capable of passing my course should pass my course. Students who haven't engaged, in the course, haven't met the minimum requirements, then I should be able to fail them. It's not about bumping everyone up. That's not retention. Retention is ensuring that the students who do engage, do the assessment, and put in, and are capable of passing, they pass the course. So, I guess understanding why students fail is very important to understand, and then if you know why they're going to fail, then you can make sure that you put in checks for those behaviours. And then, I guess, from an academic perspective, I would want to know that whatever we're doing from an learning analytics perspective is actually going to identify and give us a chance to intervene with those students.
So you know how you said right at the beginning, you talked about how you check in with the student and you've got that alert? Do you use that alert for those who haven't logged into the course, or those that, and do you contact them and say, hey, I see you haven't logged in?
Yes.
Is that a form of retention? Because
no.
you're checking in with them, making sure that they're okay, that they don't have any tech issues.
Well, I guess the assumption there is that if I'm not on top of them about logging in and engaging the course, then maybe they'll eventually just drop out or fail. So we are making some assumptions that these behaviours are linked to, non-success in the course. So that's what I'm saying, is that I need to know, are the behaviours that I'm tracking in my students, do they actually tell me about something about whether the student is going to be retained?
So further down the track, when you run this course again and again and again, are you going to start be able to predict?
That's something that I think we need to do research around. I'm certain there has been a lot of research done on what predicts students passing courses or dropping out of online courses. So I guess the first step would be to look at that literature and then see if we can actually get access to that data and then use that data for that purpose. I know in a previous meeting I was asking the question about the retention centre and the thresholds that they set by default. Are they actually based on anything? Because I'm sort of just using the default ones because they seem reasonable. But
they're set up by Blackboard.
It's going to be right.
So I think they use 4 criteria. So there's course activity, which I'm not sure what that actually is. I assume it's got to do with whether a student's posting on the discussion board, clicking between links, pages. But the thing is, because I divert all my students off to Google,
you don't.
All my students are at risk according to that criteria, so I had to turn that one off. And so what I look at is assessment, but very little assessment starts week 3. So assessment is only in the very early stages, so that's not a good indicator at this stage. I'll get a little bit more information by mid-semester when after they complete the test 1. I'm looking, so it's assessment, performance, so assessment performance, whether they've missed any due dates. Okay, so setting up your course to have all the correct due dates, and that's a big task, particularly if you've got a lot of assessment, a lot of individual pieces of assessment like me. So there's a lot of preparation to set the retention centre up correctly. And then students' access, which I think is probably the most useful early in the courses. Have they actually logged in at all? Or have they logged in and then not come back after a week? Because that's not good, because within that week they should be doing something. They should be starting to complete the exercises.
So are you tracking that part?
Yes, that's all. Blackboard will track for the whole semester.
Right. But
assuming
of course
you have
you're not
tracking
using it
activated.
because you're in Google.
And this is one of the problems with Blackboard at this stage, is that if I want to get that data, I have to extract a report. It's not live.
Yeah. It's not instant.
Right, so you have to go in and you have to specify the date. These are the indicators that I want to track. These areas I want to track, and then you download this PDF document with the report. Okay, it's not a dashboard that I can quickly go into and just click down menus and produce my own report on the fly. So that's one of the drawbacks. Blackboard, all the data's there. Getting it out is not easy, and I think that's something that I might be able to, I guess, explore and looking at ways how is data extracted from Blackboard and whether that can be extracted in a consistent format, which I assume it does, and then whether I can develop tools for other academics that they can simply just spit their data into this folder and then have a program that will just grab that data and then actually present it to the
That's the problem, isn't it, with all of this, that all the capabilities are there, but the usability and stuff's not. And so getting people to
you should see it. The retention centre's good. It does start to track that behaviour and summarise it for you. But if you want really in-depth, week by week analysis, the reports that are produced by Blackboard are quite intimidating almost.
With David McLean?
No.
Have you met him before? Spoke with him before?
I think
He
was invited to the meeting.
He was working with Gary Allen.
I can't say I don't think I've met him in person.
Okay, then I think what would help a bit here is if I sent out an email. David McClay was working with Gary Allen on all the learning analytics. They were working. He was working with the business intelligence unit on Webby, the actual tool that was pulling data from Blackboard, and there was Webby training as well.
So what were they pulling it for?
Well, it depended on your user level. Like I had a very simple user level. I only need to see age of students, login time, demographic type stuff.
At a course level?
Yes. If you get to David McClay's and Gary's level, you can see, dependent upon your access, a whole lot more data. So I think it would help you if I sent an email to David and said, hey, I met with you today. You're interested in what Blackboard can pull, what reports are being pulled. David now is working with Philip Craig. Do you know Philip Craig? Okay, I'm going to connect you with all these people. Who's part of the business intelligence unit, and they're working on all these reports that are coming out of Blackboard. And you can start asking David, what can be pulled? How can I access this? What can I see? I need this. Can this be done? And Dave McClay is the guy who can answer those questions for you. And I think that will fill that gap, that knowledge void that you may have there by me connecting him with you and with Phil Craig. That makes sense.
Yeah. So they have those.
Peter.
They have those
they have
systems
access,
set up.
They have the knowledge, and they're actually pulling these reports and massaging these reports for
in like a semi-live fashion.
Yes, and
so
they're pulling it
pulled each day.
They're pulling it for Martin Bean. So yes, they can pull all of this stuff. So I think I need to.
Because that's what I'd want if each day I could basically log in. And see how the course is tracking, an actual like day by day analysis. So all of a sudden I just see for 1 week students are just dropping off because the assessment's gone down. I can go, hey, wait a minute, guys, course isn't over yet, and I might make a post or something to get them, put up some new content and get them logging back in and re-engaging and just telling them don't take the foot off the pedal just yet.
Okay.
So that sort of reporting would be fantastic, and then embedding that within Blackboard. somehow.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah. That's David. Ask all those questions to David. He'll be able to tell you what can and can't be done, and what the system is, what's happening, and all that sort of stuff.
And I need to do some exploring as well. And once this, maybe mid-semester, I'll pull a comprehensive report from Blackboard, everything I'm tracking, and then I'll have a better sense of what I might be able to do with that. And then maybe the things that I would like to summarise, and I can touch base with these guys and say, well, what have you currently got?
Yeah. Would you mind if I logged on, and then I can check my email, and I'm pretty sure I've still got the log on that Dave sent me, and I can show you. Can I stop the recording at this point?
Yeah.